It won't do it either.
Welcome to the Captain's Corner, your place to get informed about first steps to recovery and how we at Safe Harbour help to create healthy and safe communities. Today, we are talking about stories from the street. And stories or storytelling is one of our 7 guiding stars here at the Harbor. So we are super excited to have our outreach and diversion team here to guest right now, because they are literally on the street every day and they have all those stories to share. So I welcome our Captain Kath Hoffman this morning.
Ahoy, ahoy. I'm happy to see my crew on here.
And we welcome the crew, and I just would love for you to briefly say your name and like what team you are with, and then we can dive into everything. And my name is Kirsten and I am your facilitator today. Okay, let's dive in. Like, who do we have here at the corner today? Maybe just start from left to right or other way around, whatever you want.
Sure. I'm Stevie. I'm on the diversion team. Been here on the team for a year and a half.
Awesome.
I'm Shelley. I am also on the social diversion team. I have just been on the team for about a month and a half, but I've been with Safe Harbour for 5 years.
Awesome.
And, I'm Travis with the outreach team. Been around almost 4 years now, same position.
Is it 4 years?
Yeah, almost.
Wow.
You're not sick of me yet. That's awesome.
No. I think yet is the key word there. But
Oh, it sounds like trouble.
And I'm Holly. I'm on the outreach team with Travis and been here on this team for about 2 years.
Now,
Awesome.
Holly's been a Harbor girl for a long time in various capacities, and so has Shell. And it will be helpful for the people that are watching this that they won't know the difference between what the outreach team is and the social diversion team, aka 211. So if one of you from outreach, give us the skinny on what are you guys doing out there specifically? What's the difference?
For us, we do more time in the woods. We go to encampments, connect with the clients, ensure that they're aware of housing programs, procedures, steps to get there. We help them with questions with income support and Alberta Healthcare and AISH and make sure they're connected with coordinated entry. We also are utilized by, that was the main direction of outreach, and then it is expanded exponentially. We are utilized by CPOs, RCMP, the Unit 34 at the hospital, the city transit, parks. Like, there are a lot of communities, organizations in the community that utilize the outreach team because we're mobile. And we also make sure our clients hit meetings. So if they have a counseling meeting at 49th Street Mental Health, we make sure they're there. If they have a housing meeting with their case managers, we make sure that happens. Yeah, there's so much.
Travis, one question. Do you work in partnership with anybody? When you who identifies camps?
So yeah, there's a program the city has established that is accessible through the outreach team for community peace officers through city parks. So we all collaborate on where the camps are. The CPOs find them, that gets put into the program. We get there, connect with the client in the woods, and then Parks goes in to do their part in that as well.
Okay.
And then work directly with RCMP, 49th Street Mental Health, Street Connect, Turning Point. A lot of these agencies are also calling us to locate clients that they can't find.
Well, okay, right on. So you guys are out there building relationship with people who are typically don't have that happening for them.
All day long. Yeah.
Yeah. Right on.
Wow.
Okay, Stevie.
That's outreach.
Tell us about 211.
So social diversion was created in January of 2021. It was a pilot project made by the city to
help in crisis of people, whether that was mental health, intoxication, weather, food, kind of a whole roundabout thing. If anybody was in crisis, you could call us through 211, press 2, or non-emerge also dispatches us. So we work alongside RCMP when there is somebody who is heavily intoxicated and or in a mental health crisis. So we're kind of that barrier so the RCMP don't have to show up, and that uniform kind of alarms some of our clients or just people in general. They think they're in trouble. So it's kind of the barrier to break, that if we show up and see if we can talk them through the mental health crisis or get them somewhere safe if they're intoxicated, is why our team was created. And then it had a really good turnout. We got a lot of great feedback from businesses, RCMP, EMS, hospital, kind of a good response. So we got extended, and we're here again and hope to be here for many, many more years helping our people, because we're kind of the advocates for our people. You know, we assess them when we get there. We say, hey, like, you know, maybe you should go to the hospital, or maybe we can take you to 49 mental health or the street clinic, so that ambulance doesn't have to come and do a full assessment and say, oh, you don't need to go to the hospital, or you need to go to the hospital. We're kind of the advocacies for the clients who need that.
Right on.
Mhm.
Wow.
Cool.
I had a question, like when Travis, you were talking about like that you go in the woods. So what actually does that look like? Do you have like a typical, like what do you bring with you? I think you can go in there like with a car and all of that. Like, do you have a backpack with all?
Yes,
like
it's on foot. Backpack. We have supplies, socks, water, food, business cards for coordinated entry. And then our cell phone for information on the food bank, or, you know, income support or referrals. And, you know, if we're connecting with the case managers for housing, you know, that phone call gets made right then and there, instead of them trying to find somewhere in the community that would let them use a phone, right?
Yeah. Right on. So you guys are out there.
So
It's like Hill Street Blues. You guys are out there. It's like Hill Street Blues.
For the younger generation,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Shut up.
so now with this weather, you guys, like with like, I mean, we had like at least, I would say like at least a meter or like 3 foot snow over the weekend. At least it feels like it. So is there anything like specific like or needs or other needs than usual, or like are there more people that you help, or like what is the situation out there right now?
The needs are the same, except heat becomes an issue. So we have collaborated with a local business in Red Deer that supplies us with free propane, which, so they're not freezing to death and frostbitten. And, you know, in the process of going from woods to housing, that is time. It's time consuming. It's resources that are limited. Supportive or wraparound housing is not available as readily as it should be. So they need to survive until that course has run its mile. So we do have a business in Red Deer that is supplying us propane to heat their tent, if you will.
So Trav, when you're out there, how come those people in the camps aren't going into the shelter?
Yeah, that's a
mental
touchy
health.
question.
Yeah, it's so complicated.
Yeah.
I don't. That's not an easy answer, Kath.
Yes.
But a lot of it.
No, I know it's not, but it's certainly a question that everybody in the community who doesn't understand the complexity of the people
Fair
that
enough.
they're serving,
To
they
simplify,
think logically
Yeah.
there's this shelter.
Use
Like,
it.
why aren't people coming in?
to
Even
simplify, there's quite a few reasons. Mental health. So schizophrenia, they're loud, they're aggressive, they can't sleep, they're paranoid. That is not a safe environment for someone with mental health, and it escalates exponentially when there's crowds of people around them. Number two, fear of being robbed or you know, losing the little valuables they have. And you know, people don't understand that a driver's license to us is a driver's license, or a bank card. To someone in a vulnerable position, that is months of trying to get that in order to get that back. And so to go to the shelter and have your wallet stolen or your backpack or what have you, it's just not worth it. Like you're trying to make steps, and in order to make steps, you need that government issue ID. You need your healthcare. You need, so if that goes missing, then it's 3 steps back. So it's easier for them just to avoid that.
Is it safe to say that a lot of those people that both of you guys, both teams are seeing out there are still actively using substances?
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
And then you would, with that, I would think, they would
Temptation.
like some privacy.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
the paranoia,
Yeah, right.
and the paranoia
The
of
psychosis.
what may happen or
Yeah.
what might not.
Yeah.
The flip side to that too, Kath, is the ones that are on Suboxone and trying to clean up, they're avoiding the shelter to avoid temptation,
Mhm.
right?
Hmm.
I've
Which is a
even
big one.
experienced like within the last winter, some people like we've met a older gentleman who we found on the street. Somebody had called us, just wanted a welfare check. He just looked cold and he didn't know about the shelter, but had recently left his housing due to some conflict that was happening there. And he didn't know about the shelter. And I said, well, where had you been sleeping? And he said outside. And he actually got into some trouble because he was trying to sleep in a business, but he didn't know about the shelter. And we introduced him to like all the shelters, the Mustard Seed, us, and just to give him those resources. So sometimes they sleep outside because they actually truly don't know that we have resources in them for the city. So there's another reason
Good
that
point.
we've come across.
Well, I know it's a hard thing, it's hard, like I said earlier, for people to understand why that doesn't just happen. But I know that we all know why it doesn't happen, right? And we got to have enough options out there for everybody. You're absolutely right. To go and hook them up with housing, we all know the reality of that too. That's a wait list right now.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, kudos to you guys, because I know, I was just poking you so that you could explain that to the general public who don't know as well as you do about those complexities. Yeah.
Also, what you just mentioned, Stevie, that I mean, we all like are on social media, maybe read a newspaper, we are connected, so we know what is out there. But for someone who doesn't have what we have, they maybe absolutely don't know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is definitely a huge factor. Like you can spread like through word of mouth just on Facebook of resources. But if somebody doesn't utilize Facebook, or like in reality, a lot of our clients don't have phones. They can't afford them, they get stolen, whatever. So there isn't that word of mouth of like what time we're open at, or how many numbers we're seeing, what's available at the shelter. So if you don't have that.
Older clientele too are not aware of technology.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
We have a lot of clients over 60 that are, that's another roadblock.
And we're also seeing new faces to Red Deer as well from out of town.
Yeah, that are not aware that there even is a shelter.
Yeah. Good point.
All ages.
Yeah.
All ages.
Yeah.
So are there any like stories that you have heard that really like kind of connected you to your heart, or where you thought, oh my goodness, I won't forget that, or like something that really touched you that you would like to share today?
I have one.
Yes.
The first time that we'd ever been invited, or I've ever been invited to the Dream Center in Calgary, was with one of our clients that I'd known back in the old MATS days when we had 26 MATS. He was actually my first overdose ever. And he was very sorry for scaring me so badly.
Aw.
But at the same time, I watched him spiral down into deep addiction. Treated him many times at a different facility for overdose. And always tried to tell him, hey, there is a future, there is hope. And so this past year, we got to go to the Dream Center in Calgary to his graduation. and
That's a
cry
treatment
with
center, right, Hall?
him. Yep, and cry with him and clap for him and
Yeah,
watch him walk across that stage and so proud, and for all of us to be able to go was amazing.
yeah.
We held him. He was so proud that we all showed up as a support group from Safe Harbor, that
Wow.
there was so
That's
many
so
of us
cool.
that went there. So that was one of the stories I've heard from other clients, just as late as last week, that he's doing well, he's working, he's productive, he's happy
Sober.
and sober.
Wow.
Yeah. And you don't very often get to see that end of the
We don't get
spectrum.
enough of those.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right on. That's cool, Hall. That's a really
story
good
that
story.
actually comes to my mind is we I think it would have been last winter. We had this client who was in psychosis for like multiple days on time, and it was probably like day 3 of the psychosis, and I think all of our teams were like slightly involved in trying to get her some help and trying to get her up to the hospital and get her assessed. But it was a difficult process because you have to be willing to come with us. We can't like make you do anything. So it took a couple days to like gain her trust and to talk with her and try to, just like work through the psychosis with her. And we eventually on, I think day 4 or 3, got her up to the hospital, and thankfully we got to sit with her there so she didn't leave. And we did triage with her because it was difficult for her to explain to the nurse like what she was going through. It was more of an observation of like she wasn't safe in that psychosis. So it was really nice to actually talk to the nurse and tell her what we've been experiencing over the last couple of days. And then on top of that, to sit with her in the waiting room, because lots is going on in her mind, the mental health and even the sometimes drug-induced psychosis. So we got to sit with her for a couple hours until a doctor had come, found her a safe room. And it was an easier process just us being there with her because she felt like she could trust us and it was safe. So I
Yeah.
think that really stuck with me. And then about 2 months later, I hadn't seen her or we don't get much follow-up on what we do when we give a warm handoff. So she came actually down to the shelter. I was outside of the shelter and she came running up to me and told me she was back living with her parents. Her parents let her back in, and she was on regular medications and just doing like a lot better. And she was like, I'm just passing by. Like, I just wanted to let you know. And I was just like, wow, like you don't hear of that very often. And especially because we just give a warm handoff. We don't get access to files or what AHS has or what any other, agency has. So it was cool to see the follow-up, and it just proves like some of the clients need us to advocate for them to actually truly get some help.
Cool.
Wow.
Who's going
that's
next?
amazing. Yes.
Hi, sorry.
Discussing
Okay.
stories.
Yeah.
Stories.
Oh, yeah. Actually, one more story, Travis just reminded me of the RCMP had given us a call for this man in this neighborhood. He was walking around, and it was like really like full-blown winter storm, and they were like, yeah, he looks homeless. And we got there, and he was like a 78-year-old man, and he had a nice knitted sweater and some like slippers on, and I was like, this guy isn't homeless. Like he looks like he got away from his like lodge or something.
Oh,
Yeah, so I called the RCMP back and was like, I don't know, like I don't know I don't want to bring him down to the shelter just in case he has a home. Like he looks well groomed and he's got a couple hearing aids, like, and they're like, okay, let me look it up. And they actually found out that a man had escaped his dementia ward at like 4 p.m. or 3:30, and all the RCMP were looking for him, but they had sent us just to check on the guy. And so we got to transport him back to his dementia lodge, and he got back safely. But it's just ironic that, some people, think that somebody's homeless and they're not homeless,
yeah.
Somebody's wandering around, they might be homeless. So you always got to like keep that in mind, that sometimes, looks aren't everything. So
I also think that's the beauty of diversion, and is not generated strictly for vulnerable population. It's generated for the entire community in crisis. So it's not just set up for that one sole purpose. It's useful anywhere.
Yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
in the 6 weeks or 2 months that I've been on the team, you know, I would say like 90 to 95% of our calls are to do with our population, but I've dealt with youth. I've dealt with an elderly lady that wandered from her home that a neighbor was concerned about, newcomers into town that are just trying to find their way around. So, I mean, in 6 weeks, I've seen a huge cross section of folks from all walks of life that were able to, and that's been really interesting. And I know for me, prior to being on the diversion team, I've worked in the shelter for a long, long time. And being on diversion made me realize what a bubble the shelter is, because you kind of get in there and I think this is the end all be all. This is what we're doing in here for these people. You know, we do a lot, but it's been really interesting for me to leave the doors, be out in the community and see what these folks are doing when they're not in the shelter, or what they're going through when they're not in the shelter, and the completely different challenges they're facing outside of the doors, you know, because you'll see people and then months will go by or weeks, and I always, oh, where's this person? What are they doing? And being outside, and it's been so eye-opening to be able to tag along with outreach and go into the encampments. Like, it actually has been amazing to me to see these camps and see the complexities of how they're set up. Like, they're ingenious, some of them, like it's mind-blowing. And
Log cabins.
gosh, like, the things that people do to the resiliency of these folks, that what they're doing out there. So that has been really, really neat for me to feel like I knew it all, and I went, nope, I don't, not even close.
Yeah.
A whole
Wow.
nother side. Yeah.
Can you give some examples, Shelley? Like, this sounds like super, like, yeah, what you said with the bubble and then going outside. Like, was there like 1, 2 things where you thought, oh my God, like, this is, I can't believe I didn't see,
Or
know
just,
that. Or,
well, people outside of that environment, you know, because we're in the shelter, it's a busy place, you know, and you're kind of just plugging holes all over the place sometimes in the shelter, and kind of just mitigating. Where when I've been able to be out as part of these teams, getting the opportunity to have conversations with people and ask them, I've been able to be like, do you stay out here all winter on purpose, or is this, you know, are you choosing this? Or being able to have conversations with them about the way they're building things, or how they're setting up their lives. And, you know, it's interesting. Stevie and I were just talking about this morning, especially with winter, going, I can't imagine choosing to be out in this. We're cold. We've got this warm car to get in and out of, and we're coming across folks that are like, hey, I just found this great double-sided tarp to fortify the wall in our camp. And he's like super jazzed about it. And I'm going, oh my gosh, like, it sounds horrible, but and he's really positive about it. And this is
positivity.
Yeah. And, you know, just because it doesn't work for me doesn't mean it doesn't work for somebody else. And, you know, we can become accustomed to a lot of things when it works for us, when it works for our life in that moment, right? It might not be, it's not the greatest long-term solution, but sometimes it's got to be it for the now. And you just make the best of it.
Meeting people where they're at.
Yeah, that's what we've always said, is we're just going to meet them where they're at. It could be something small that they need, or something very big, and just helping them in that moment of like crisis, or whatever it looks like for them. Just getting them one step ahead is what we're really here for.
Well, and I think the trauma too, people carry trauma differently. We don't know what trauma looks like in somebody else's eyes always. And how that they carry that trauma, and how they cope and deal with that kind of stuff. So meeting
Good point,
where
Hall.
they're at is important.
You know, I remember telling the community about our philosophy of meeting people where they're at, right? And then after a few years of that, I thought, okay, it sounds like they're really telling us where they're at. There's no funding for that.
Yeah,
I know.
You know, and that's my question to you guys now. You know, you see that need, especially Trav and Hall, you guys are in those camps and stuff, knowing, okay, you go to the camp, you check on Buddy, that camp might get taken down. And then where's Buddy going? You know, and so you are having to support people in a merry-go-round of madness, kind of, you know.
That's a good,
Like people say to me, why do people just keep going around in circles? And I say, because we just keep building merry-go-rounds,
Yeah.
you know? And so that's a hard gig for you guys.
My thought and theory on that is my expectation of life, where I decide to live, what I decide to own, drive, have a dog, that is my expectation. My sense of happiness is what it is, as is yours, as is someone that owns a $2.7 million mansion at Canyon Heights. That's their expectations of happiness. So with outreach, I always go in with the mindset of not to tell you how to live, but how can I help you achieve your piece of happiness? So if this camp with a propane bottle and a couple of snacks and the merry-go-round, like you said, if that is your definition of happiness, I'm just here to figure out how to make that easier for you.
Yeah.
That way, if you decide you want to level up to a different type of happiness, then I have already built that connection, and we are here to make that step with you.
Yeah.
With you.
And that's the key, hey? You know, because if you guys weren't there, those relationships aren't there. That bridge isn't built, right? And that's the ticket when you're on the front lines.
And I don't have a right to dictate, you know, you need to live in an apartment and have a Chihuahua as a pet and drive a Toyota Corolla. That's my perception. If it were, that would be my perception of happiness. It's not yours. It's not everyone's.
Well, I think another thing is just being honest with them. You're going there and you're going into their space and you're like, hey, what can I help you with? And they're like, well, I need A, B, and C. And you're like, okay, I can't do those for you. I don't have the money. I don't have the resources. So I think also being honest and transparent with them, like also forms that connection on like, okay. And then you try to find a solution on what they need. And, but being honest and upfront, like, well, that might be a little bit more difficult than it seems, right? I know I just asked you what you need, but we don't have all the time what they need, right? Like there isn't sometimes a simple fix to getting them some help or resources. So it is frustrating. Some days it's exhausting, and especially like seeing people in the cold and being like, why are you here? And then them giving us a list or a couple things of what they need help with, and you're like, I can't do that. Like I can't find you an apartment for December 1st, you know, like stuff like that you're like, my hands are tied and you only have so much to work with. So it is defeating sometimes, you know, it is tough to let your clients know that there isn't a lot sometimes that we can help with, but we do try to make the best of every situation and honestly just try to make them one step ahead than when we got there.
Yeah.
We also work very hard together too, even though it's diversion and outreach, which is two separate. We do spend time. A lot of times diversion will come with outreach, just to learn about the camps and make those connections with people that you know, maybe the CPO has been looking for somebody. We know where they are a lot of the times. We also keep track of our discovered camps, which we felt in this last year was very important, besides just the city pinned camps.
Yes, I bet, Hall. Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of times we know that, you know, the good chance he's down here, we can get eyes on him down here.
Yeah.
Based on the last time that we saw them.
Yeah.
We do work together a lot that way.
Yeah, we do.
And if we need backup, they're willing to help. If they need backup, we're willing to help.
Yeah.
Well, you know, over the years, I've heard so many times from different community members, you know, who might call me out of the blue or call Safe Harbor and say, hey, we found Buddy passed out over here, or I'm worried about this guy I just saw. Many of the stories like you guys have said. And we didn't have the capacity at that point to do anything about it. You know, now having both outreach and social diversion operating, it gives us the opportunity to get out there where the community can see us and we can say, hey, we are helping. Because when they think of us just only in the realm of shelter, which they have a tendency to do because of all the media all the time, they think we're enabling people because we're operating a shelter, right? when you guys are out there making those connections, that's something visual that those community members can see, the businesses can see. I know you guys have made great relationship with the businesses, and how much they appreciate that, knowing that now. When I still tell people about 211, they're saying, I didn't know that. Oh, that's so great. Okay, great. Right. So yeah, for teams that have, are still relatively new to the community, you guys are doing great work. And not just for the people that you're serving, but also for the rest of the community who needs you.
Yeah, that is a huge part of our job, honestly, in downtown, the downtown core, because a lot of our clients use those resources in downtown, so they're moving and sometimes they want to take a seat and sometimes they
Yeah.
gather up all their belongings in front of a business, and that business owner is either sometimes afraid or doesn't want to be targeted or whatever reason it is, and we can go there and say, hey guys, like, what are you doing? Like, it can be just that barrier that we break, and we know these people and we have a relationship with these people, so they're
Yeah.
like receptive of us. They feel like we can trust them and they can trust us. So we've definitely made strides since Diversion was started in January of 2021, just with connecting with businesses and letting them know we're here to support them too. And if we can, make this pathway for everybody to kind of walk down, and it can turn out to be like a really, really good city.
And some really good conversations too from some of these businesses, especially ones you visit multiple times, and a lot of them are really good and ask, what can we do in this situation, or how can we help, or what is a better way to manage that? And that's really neat when we get to connect and have those conversations with the community, with the businesses, instead of them, kind of throwing their hands up or creating more barriers. And we definitely come across naysayers too. But I had a really neat experience a few weeks ago. We had a business on the North End call, and he was very concerned about a gentleman that he found out back. And when we drove up there, we went behind the business where he described this person was, and all we got was got a man sleeping in a box. So we drove up and went behind the business, and we didn't see anybody. We kind of expected maybe a broken down cardboard structure like we see quite a bit, people just making that barrier between the ground and them. And we saw nothing. Now, there was a massive refrigerator-sized box just kind of behind this building. It didn't look disturbed. So we went to check it out and kind of knocked on it. And sure enough, there was a gentleman inside it. And he had a whole bed, like a blow-up kind of bed, and he had food in there. And what had happened was the business owner had come out to tear this box down and put it in the recycle, and he kind of kicked it, and the box talked to him and was like, hey, leave me alone. It scared the living daylights out of him,
I guess.
And so he interacted with the gentleman in the box. And this business owner was so kind. He was more concerned. He wasn't ticked off that he was there. He was shocked and frightened. But so, of course, called us. He didn't call non-emerge. He did call directly to 211, which was wonderful that he knew about it. So we interacted with this gentleman, discovered that he was from out of town. He had come here wanting to access detox. And he was just kind of staying wherever. He did not want to go downtown. He didn't want to be near the things that are often found downtown. And so we had a really great interaction with him. Unfortunately, it was late in the day, so he wasn't able to access the detox intake. But we left him a bunch of information. We left him kind of the instructions of how to be prepared for detox and kind of the parameters. So the next morning he could go. And we said, hey, if you're ready and you want to go, give us a ring. We'll pick you up in the morning. And we kind of had a conversation later on, like, we might hear back from this guy, we might not. And he was really agreeable to move on from this gentleman's business. And sure enough, next morning, 7:45, our 211 line rang, and this gentleman had called 211 and asked to be connected to us, let us know where he'd moved to. We went and found him, picked him up. We took him to detox intake, and detox was really, really full that day. So we were kind of bracing him for, hey, you know what, if this doesn't work out today, we can do this again tomorrow. But really, fortunately, he got in. And that was a cool success story because, like Stevie said, we don't get to see kind of the follow through a lot of times.
Yeah.
But when that phone rang in the morning, we were super excited. We're like, he stayed sober overnight. He remembered, he called, we went and found him. And that was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the interaction with that business owner being so caring and not angry, even
Yeah.
after he was scared witless.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
the
bet he
talking
was.
box.
Talking box.
The talking box.
The talking box is what we were talking about.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Huh.
What great stories, you guys, that you can share today. Awesome.
I think we're.
Is there anything else? Time goes by so fast with you.
No, we have so many
does,
stories.
yeah.
So many stories.
Is there anything else that you would love people to know about what you do or things that you have experienced and would like to share?
Travis has one.
I got a couple of stories.
Yes, please.
I'm going to run through these quick. They're really cool. One client out of Reman, picked him up, take him to the mustard seed, told him don't make any friends here. Head down, headphones in, stay looking forward. 9 days later, has his own apartment. 2 months after that, calls us, asks us how hard it is to get into school, to finish his high school. We connect him with that. A month and a half later, we're taking him his bagged lunch because he forgot it to school. Employed, calls us about 8 months later and says, hey, I'm moving to Victoria. I got a job on the island.
Wow.
Off he went. And super great story. We have another guy living in an old beat up SUV. I'm trying to avoid details here. He had 3 massive dogs, tattooed head to toe, LA gangbanger, bigger than me. Like he's probably about 320 pounds, very intimidating. And then he opens his mouth and a gentleman falls out. Connected him with housing. Struggles to keep rent paid. So we were taking him to different organizations to see if they could help. He finally gets a job where he's working. He's been sober. Actually, we just celebrated his 4 years last week.
Yeah.
Been sober 4 years straight, employed, housed, dogs are healthy. And this is a kind of guy that, is very scary. And then gets out of our outreach field and says, I love you guys. See you next week. And my third one is when I started outreach, one of the first camps I went into, the guy threatened to cut me if I didn't leave him the F alone and blah, blah, blah. So I kept going back every 3 days, keeping my distance. 9 months to a year passes by, and now I'm his emergency contact on his medical forms.
Yeah.
So again, building those relationships. There,
Yeah.
that's the quick stories. How's that?
Wow.
Those are awesome stories. They're awesome stories, you guys. And I'm so glad you're out there shining your light so bright. And I know I'm not the only one that's glad for it. There's so many people in the community that are, grateful for the work that you do out there. Yeah. So storytelling star today, and a lot about the relationship star too, which is our North Star. So it should fit in all of the star stories. But you guys are stars, each and every one of you. I love you dearly. I'm humbled to be the captain of such a crew.
Awesome. So that was amazing. Thank you guys for joining us today. And I'm sure that like these stories will be shining their light when people hear them today or whenever they listen to our recording. So thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure to have you all here. And anything else you would like to share, Kath? Or I don't know, the usual. Oh, I think she's frozen.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
she
No
does.
way.
She
Okay.
needs rest. Give her a minute.
Yeah.
Easy lady.
I think it's too cold. I don't know how
Eddie,
cold
as
it
you-
is. Oh, I heard steady as she goes. Okay, thank you guys. Oh, there she is again.
Thank you.
Kat.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting us share.
Thank you.
See you.
See you. Bye.